Okay. My goodness. Welcome to Verbling. Hi, I'm Teacher Oakley. Struggling with the Google Hangouts slightly today. Sorry for the late start again. I don't know what's going on. All right, we are going to look at the Toefl writing exam in this class. We're going to approach this in a certain way. All right, basically, Toefl demands a very rigid, they want you, their expectations, what they need you to do to get a good score is quite rigid. They want to put you in a box. They want you to be very specific and basically follow their criteria that match their scoring guidelines. And they want you to be very direct and very clear. All right. Because of that, we are going to approach this Toefl writing test by actually looking at a template first and discussing it. Now, basically, the Toefl writing exam scoring is based on four different aspects. One is, do you answer the question? So read the question twice, rephrase the question in your mind to make sure you're answering the question in your written response. That's 25% of your score. 2, organization, basically paragraph organization. Do you have proper paragraphs? A topic paragraph, support paragraph, concluding paragraph. That's another 25% of your score. 3, coherence and cohesion. Do your written sentences follow one another in a logical progression? In other words, do you use signal words and signal phrases like first of all, secondly, for example, all right, to summarize at the end, all right, to indicate contrasting information like on the other hand or however, to show results as a result, consequently. If you use these sorts of discourse markers or signal words and phrases, that's number 3 in the scoring. That's 25% of your score. The remaining 25% of your score in Toefl writing actually has to do with English, sentence structure, and vocabulary usage. So only 25% of your score actually has really much to do with English. 75% of your score is, are you answering the questions and are you organized? Please remember that. So the approach I use to teach Toefl writing is you need to know exactly your outline. What is your template? Basically, you can know your organization and even the discourse markers that you're going to use. Half of the test is already in your brain before you even take the test. Literally. All your only job when you take the test is to actually understand the question, make sure you're answering the question, and use topic-related vocabulary. That's it. Okay, so we're going to look at a basic template. Welcome to the class, Nora, again. Thank you, Nora, again. Hi. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Pablo.
I didn't do anything.
Yes, you did. You could have just plowed on with the class. I appreciate it. Thank you. Pablo.
Hi, teacher.
Hey there. Hi, Pablo. Welcome to the class. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right. We're looking at TOEFL writing. Do you guys have plans to take the TOEFL test, Pablo?
Yeah, the right now I'm not preparing for that. I'm just learning um pronunciation pronunciation and get better pronunciation.
Okay. All right. I'll keep that in mind. I'll try to ask you lots of questions so I can listen to you. Nora, are you planning to take that TOEFL test?
Yeah, I have to take it, but not now. I'm planning to take it at the end of the year, but I want to know the structure now so that I can know what to focus and what focus on, what to not focus on, because I know
Yeah.
it's not one day practice. It has to be
Oh, you're so right
before.
about that. Lots of practice. You know, the TOEFL exam, anybody can do it, but I don't care how smart you are. Anybody can do it, but it takes tons of practice. You're totally correct.
Mm.
Um, okay. Uh, all right, let's look at a template for answering question number 1 in writing. What is question number 1 in TOEFL? You will read a passage. We'll look at this if we have to, hopefully later after we go through the template. You'll read a passage, some kind of academic writing. You'll have 3 minutes to do that, which is plenty of time, by the way. Also, you're going to be able to see the passage later when you actually write. So don't worry too much about making notes on the passage. You may want to jot down a couple of the main points simply because the next thing that happens, you will listen to a lecture. The lecturer, the professor or whoever, will address the main points of the reading passage. So if you can predict what you're going to hear, if you can predict the main points, it's a lot easier to hear in the lecture. In fact, basic strategy for listening, try to be predictive. Try to predict what they're going to say next. This actually will really help you in listening to be better at getting the whole content and context. Okay,
Mm.
that being said, the lecturer is going to do one of two things. They are either going to trash, they're going to trash the reading passage, they're going to cast doubt on it, they're going to disagree, or they are going to support the reading passage and add more details, perhaps discuss an experiment that proves the point made in the reading passage, for example, or add extra detail to agree. So, agree or disagree, one or the other. I personally think most of the time the lecturer disagrees. Okay, the question is always exactly the same. Summarize the points made in the lecture. This is important. The question refers to the lecture, explaining how they cast doubt on the reading. All right, so your focus is talking about the lecture and then discussing how it reflects on the reading. All right, so here's what you need to do. As in all writing, you need to stay organized. Again, paragraphing, very simply, is 25% of your score. So this is pretty easy to do, actually. Paragraph 1 is your introduction. You're going to introduce, and then you're going to have supporting paragraphs, and then your concluding paragraph. That's it. So you've got to start, or topic paragraph, introduction, whatever you want to call it. You're going to start with a topic sentence. in the lecture, the professor, teacher, instructor, whoever, made several points about the whatever the topic is. The topic could be geology, the I don't know, the it could be about the the shells of crabs in the Mediterranean. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Okay, very simple. The lecturer made some points. All right, great. Then you need to state how the lecturer feels in regards. What is his main thesis? What is his controlling idea? In writing, okay, you have the topic, and then you have the controlling idea. So the basic idea is the professor discusses poultry, chickens. What's his controlling idea? The professor talks about giving growth hormones to chickens. All right, that's the more focused idea. And he contends this is a great practice. All right, fine. However, here is your contrasting statement. Please notice, however, you can use other transitionals. What else can I say? Instead of however, what can I say? Nora?
On the other hand, maybe.
Very good. On the other hand, conversely might be another one. All right.
Yeah.
All right. The reading contends that. The reading says that. The reading notes that. The reading states that. What is the main idea of the reading? Okay. So focus is on the lecture. How does it relate to the reading? All right. I'm simply following the question. Points made in the lecture. How does that relate to the reading? And then last of all, I'm going to make my thesis statement. I'm not going to get into any specific information. That's going to be in the body paragraphs, in the supporting paragraphs. Now, this is basic, useful English, even if you're not interested in Toefl. This is how you form a simple essay. All right. For example, the professor's lecture casts doubt on the reading by using a number of points. Ooh, here's a nice technique. By making a few points, a number of points, 3 points, using some kind of quantifier or possibly an actual number. Very common technique, very reliable, can't really go wrong with that one. Okay, that are contrary to, again, the idea that growth hormones are harmful to humans. Maybe that's the idea of the reading. I'm making that stuff up. Okay, the professor disagrees with the contention in the reading that growth hormones are bad for both poultry and humans, and he uses a number of points. Now I can play around with this sentence. I can say it a number of different ways. I can move the phrases or the clauses around in the sentence. But basically, you're just stating the professor disagrees. Okay? That's it. Really basic. And pretty much you can do this for every single time. You're not doing anything fancy. You're just following a really, really basic recipe here.
Teacher, I got a question.
Sure.
That means that you have 4 types of answer a question. Four kinds of answer.
4 kinds of answer? No, not
No.
4 kinds of answer. These the Roman numerals represent each sentence. 4 sentences. So your introductory paragraph would basically be 4 sentences. That's not 4 kinds of answer. We're talking about writing. So your first paragraph has 4 sentences. Okay?
Okay. My answer have to have 4 sentences.
No,
4
it doesn't.
sentences.
It doesn't have to. All right? Not necessarily exactly. Now look, it would be
It's
possible.
a guía. It's possible.
It would. You can't really go wrong if you follow this formula, this template. It is possible, of course, to combine in a longer, compound, complex sentence. All right, and make it 3 sentences. For example, in the lecture, the professor made several points about using growth hormones on common barnyard poultry, comma, and he argues that this is a very beneficial practice. Okay, I've made a longer compound sentence and I've combined the first 2 ideas. Fine. No big deal. The idea is that I'm getting all these ideas. All right, which is the topic and the controlling idea. I should have a transitional sentence which should be independent because I'm really looking to use a transitional signal phrase. And then a thesis statement. So 3 sentences, 4 sentences, okay. Now we get into the details. This is where it is important. One of the keys to your success in the Toefl test. You're going to be writing, and the reading section is going to be right next to you. You're going to be able to see it as you write. So no worries there. What's the problem? The problem is the lecture. You're going to have to, as you listen to the lecture very carefully, take notes. Exactly. You're going to have to take notes of the key words which express the main point, as well as the key words which express detail or which can remind you of the details. This is going to give you enough information to write lots of words. Because, well, if you don't have to think too much, you're going to be able to write faster. And you're fighting the clock. Believe me, you are definitely fighting the clock in this exam. Secondly, you have to have so many words. You're looking for 200 words in question 1 to be safe. So the more information that you got from the lecture, frankly, the more information you're going to be able to write, and the faster you're going to be able to write. So your note-taking ability.
Do I have to count the words, or is it in the computer?
Good question. Ooh, that's a really good question. I think there's a word count function. I'm 95% sure, actually, that there is a word count function in the test, which will tell you how many words you're up to.
Okay, good.
So you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Yeah, and even if there isn't, a very fast way to determine that is, for example, okay, read how many words here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 words, not including the parentheses, in this sentence. All right, I have 10 sentences. That's 80 words on average. So you can figure it out very quickly. I'm pretty sure it has a word count, though.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the takeaway there is the note taking in the lecture is absolutely crucial to your success. You may want to practice by going to news websites like I don't know, Voice of America or BBC or NPR, National Public Radio. You can easily Google any of these, or TED Talks, and listening and practice making notes to get the key points. And then going back and listening again and making sure that you got all the key points and you understood the topic and controlling idea of the newscast or of the presentation in TED Talks. Okay? Or YouTube videos, whatever. This is something you can practice and you will improve at. Being able to simultaneously listen and your note-taking ability, how you can draw an arrow, make a circle, make a quick star, a dash, underline things in your notes to add emphasis or meaning, which is very, very independent to you. This will also, you'll develop your own note-taking style, which will very much help you. Okay, because you have taken good notes, now we can attack the body paragraphs. This is simple. All right. The first point that the professor uses to cast doubt on the reading is, really, notice the discourse marker, the first point, first of all, okay, to begin with, okay, whatever, you use your, again, very extremely important, another 25% of the test is using these signal words or signal phrases. Extremely important in writing or actually in speaking as well. You should be doing this very same thing in speaking. Strategy is generally the same. Of course, in the Toefl speaking test, you're timed 45 seconds or a minute, so you really have to crunch all this information. In the writing, you kind of expand all this information. All right. Okay. So you have a kind of a topic sentence for the first paragraph. The first point that the professor uses to cast doubt on the reading is point number 1, according to the professor, and give detail. Kind of restate it with a little bit of extra information, hopefully, maybe keywords that you were able to take notes. Then, all right, again, just mirroring the question, talk about the lecture, then talk about how it reflects on the reading. Same thing. So you can use the question itself as a guideline to remember your template. First, address the lecture, then talk about how it's different from the reading. This is opposed to the reading, differs from the reading, this is different from the reading, this contradicts the reading, this is slightly different from the reading, okay. However, it reflects on the reading. And then finally, basically restating that idea. The point made by the professor casts doubt on the reading because he believes that growth hormones will produce more protein over time. Okay, what, for example? Okay, one thing I don't like about this template is uses to cast doubt on the reading. Try to change these little phrases as much as you can. All right, instead of uses to cast doubt, what could I say here? Hello, Michael, by the way.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
Well, I'm getting a cold, but
What happened?
I don't know. Get sick. Yeah, that's life.
That's why you chose like next class about health. Yeah.
No, that was a happy accident, actually.
So we could give you some advice
Yeah,
about.
great. I'll look forward to that. Great. And then I have a small break, so I can implement your advice. That'll be great. Okay. Okay. As I was saying, I don't like in this template how it repeats some phrasing. As much as you can, you should change the phrasing. All right, cast doubt on. How else can I say that?
Bring doubts.
Brings doubt. Okay. Sure. All right, that's possible. Okay, you also see differs from. Anything else? How can I express that? Cast doubt differs from. Either one of you. There's only two in the class. I'm not worried about everyone shouting at once. Okay.
We can change the whole sentence, right?
Sure. You can change the sentence around. Absolutely. All right. Differs from, cast out, disagrees with, opposes, simply as the verb, contradicts, as a verb, can be used. And yeah, you can change the sentence around. Okay, you can you can flip flop objects and subjects and objects. All right. The reading, you can do passive. The reading is contradicted by the professor because he states that the growth hormones will actually create more protein for the amount of energy invested. Ooh, okay. I just, all right. And you probably want to do that. You probably want to create a passive structure here and there instead of staying all active throughout your whole writing. That's a good idea. It shows a little versatility and shows you got some skills. Paragraph. The next paragraph, body paragraph. Guess what? You're absolutely doing the exact same thing, but again, try to use different phrasing. All right. Oh, here we have contradicted. The reading says, the reading states, the reading relates. Okay, instead of the first point, the second point is, or another point is, an additional point is, as well, the professor says. Again, you're going to want to cultivate, memorize, have at your disposal a number of these signal words or signal phrases, not just for the writing, also for speaking. You'll use them in both areas of the test. Basically, rinse and repeat, just using the second point. All right? Doing the same thing. The conclusion is easy peasy. After your signal word or signal phrase, in conclusion, what else can I say, Nora, instead of in conclusion?
Finally.
Finally, yeah. Michael?
Or to sum up.
To sum up, yeah.
To conclude.
To conclude, to summarize. Yeah, okay. Number of ways to do it. All right. Very simple. This is basically, you can take this word for word and just memorize it. In conclusion, the points made in the lecture contrast with the reading. Okay. Okay. Points 1 and 2. The fact that the lecturer believes more protein will be created and that there will be no harmful effects to humans by feeding chicken growth hormones. Okay. Contradict the information in the reading and puts the reading passage in doubt. I don't know, something like that. Again, you don't have to memorize it. In fact, you can't really, because different words, vocabularies, and situations are going to demand different sentence structure. But basically, you need a summary. All right. Which, if you think about it, is basically a rephrase of your thesis statement back in paragraph 1. Maybe because now that you have discussed the actual points, you actually could quickly mention them. Don't go into detail here. This is your conclusion, but a summary of point 1 and point 2. And that's basically that. Again, now, the lecturer may show support for the reading passage. The question is still going to be pretty much exactly the same. Summarize the points made in the lecture, explaining how they support the reading. The task is the opposite of the first. The question's pretty much exactly the same. You're just going to change. The template would be the same. You're just, instead of words like contradict or, okay, instead of however and contradict and cast doubt, obviously you're going to choose to use different words.
Furthermore.
Yeah, well, agree with. Bolsters his opinion, supports the opinion in the written passage. What else? Agrees with, bolsters, supports. Are there any other synonyms you guys can think of?
Support.
Yeah, support. Yeah, we have support. All right.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, okay. All right, the thesis statement here, basically the same idea. You're going to react to the question, talk about the lecture, explain how it reflects or how it relates to the reading. All right. The professor says, again, his topic, his controlling idea, the points made by the professor agree with the main controlling idea of the reading passage. In fact, the examples is going to be common, by the way. The examples used by the professor support, bolster, all right, agree with, whatever, the reading passage. And then you're doing the same thing in the body paragraphs. Support the reading. Okay. Support. See, this is not good. I don't like this template because in this template, yeah, this person is using support 3 times in the same paragraph. That's not a good idea. All right. Basic rule of thumb, don't use the same word, especially not a verb. Don't use it really more than twice in a paragraph. Twice is even pushing it. Twice is maximum. And I would even say, just basic rule of thumb, don't use the same verb 3 times in the whole written passage, actually. If you have to, because you can't think of synonyms, then don't use a word that you're not sure of. It's better to repeat support 3 times than to try to think of another synonym and have that verb be totally wrong. All right? Okay? Just don't use words, don't use idioms, don't use phrasal verbs, don't use vocabulary you don't know. You know something? In the Toefl test, really, it's very, very different than an IELTS test. In an IELTS test, you're definitely going to get points for attempting more dramatic, more unique,
Creativity.
creative, yeah,
Yeah, I
vocabulary.
was gonna ask you that question. Which is easier, TOEFL or IELTS?
Uh, in my opinion, this is totally my opinion, and others would disagree
Mm.
with me. So take it with a grain of salt, okay? In my opinion, IELTS is easier, but it's also
Why?
harder. It's easier and it's harder at the same time because IELTS is actually more focused on you showing a wide range of English skills. TOEFL is very narrow. They want you to do this template. Learning a template for IELTS would be just a waste of time because they want you to be, well, not really experimental, but creative, show a wide range of vocabulary, idiomatic language, phrasal verb usage, different sentence structure, conditional sentences with and relative clauses and gerund clauses, infinitive clauses. They want to see all that. TOEFL could care less if you can write a conditional sentence,
Yeah.
if you can include a relative clause. They don't even care. Okay?
Mm. Yeah. They just want me to follow the template.
Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Again, only 25% of your score is even involved in vocabulary and grammar in the TOEFL written test, and similar to the speaking test. So
And the
if you get,
rest is forward.
and the rest is, yeah, okay. Again, they're looking. 25% is, are you answering the question correctly? They actually care if you're answering the. Are you on topic? Well,
Mm.
so does IELTS. 2 is 25% is your paragraphing organization. Seriously, it's just paragraphing, knowing how to paragraph correctly. This
Okay.
is a part of IELTS. One of the IELTS combines this and organization and coherence. It combines these two things together into one thing. TOEFL is separate, using these transition markers, first point, secondly, all right, using these things is a full 25% of your score in TOEFL.
Okay.
Right. In IELTS, 25% of your score is organization and the structure, paragraph. And then it's actually more like a third, and a third of your score is your grammar, sentence structure, and the third is your vocabulary. So actual English has a lot more to do with your score. So I'm a native speaker, so for me that's a lot easier. For somebody who's a second language speaker, maybe it's a lot easier just to remember a template and memorize exactly how to do it. Learn a few skills like how to take notes and how to take notes while listening.
And IELTS, I don't think there's listening, right? And writing.
Sure. Both tests have the same listening, reading, writing, speaking. They both exactly the same. TOEFL wants what it wants. IELTS is very odd. IELTS in writing and speaking will give you extra points for attempting to do more complex things. TOEFL, it's exactly the opposite. In IELTS, if you try something more complicated and you fail, you can actually still get a higher score. In TOEFL, if you try something more complicated and you fail, you get a lower score.
Okay.
TOEFL would prefer you to keep it simple and direct. Yeah. So, there you go. All right. So, okay. Once again, the the template for question 1 for if the lecturer agrees is virtually the same. Okay, in conclusion, the points made in the lecture support the reading. You can pretty much memorize that for your conclusion. All right, point 1 and 2 that the speaker talks about demonstrate that the thesis, the main idea of the reading is valid, is true. All right, whatever. That's basically it. All right, so you're almost certainly looking at 4 paragraphs. There are pretty much always, you can be tricked. All right, it seems like almost every time the reading passage has 2 points. Actually, here's a little insider information. 95% of the time, 2 points, 2 points, 2 points in the speaking section. Okay, you'll listen to a conversation. Ooh, one of the people has a problem and the other person has, you guessed it, 2 solutions. Okay, there's a reading and then a professor, and you do the same, pretty much the same exact task in speaking. Guess what? They're talking about 2 points. All right. It comes up over and over and over again. There are 2 main points. Occasionally, it will happen that there could be 3 points, or the other thing that occasionally happens, there are 2 points, but there's advantage, disadvantage for each of the 2 points that needs to be discussed. Okay, so that can happen as well. Basically, it's almost always 2 points, though. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if we can actually look at some information here. Hang on, let me zip forward slightly. Okay. What you would see on the test, and you would hear, you may take notes. You have up to 3 minutes to do the reading. You will have 20 minutes to write your response. It says an effective response is generally 150 to 225 words. You may use your notes, of course, to help your answer, and you may refer to the reading passage. Okay, that's basically it. Then you will see some sort of introductory screen, which will look something like this. Take a look at that screen. It may have clues as to what you will be hearing from the professor. Very common to see the professor standing in front of a whiteboard with some keywords which you may want to write down because this is free time. The narrator is giving you instructions about the test, and you're just looking at this picture. Guess what? They'll give you free clues. Write down these keywords. They're going to be coming up in the lecture. Hint, hint. All right. And this is basically what the type of thing you'd be looking at. All right. You're going to write over here. You'll be able to see the actual reading part over here. This is the whole thing. Pretty basic. Okay. Wow, we only have a couple minutes here. Well, okay. No, we don't really have time to actually try this. Shoot. Okay. Well, let's at least take a look at what kind of article. I guess we can read this together and get an idea what it's like. All right. Scant physical evidence remains of the first human domestication of grain. Still, there is enough to conclude that ancient peoples, motivated by the nutritional value of bread or cakes made of wild wheat, looked for controlled ways to grow it to provide a constant food supply. 3 related discoveries are likely to have led to the introduction of bread as the first grain-based food. Okay. Guess what? I just said sometimes there may be 3. If you actually see a number in the topic paragraph of the reading, pay attention. Okay. I've just gotten a clue that probably in the lecture there's going to be 3 points. So I'm going to be listening for probably listening for 3 points. Okay. All right. Nora, can you read this next paragraph?
Okay, the first discovery was that wheat could be prepared for use by grinding. People probably began consuming wheat by chewing it raw. Because wheat is very hard, they gradually discovered that it was less trouble to eat if crushed to paste. Between 2 stones, the result would have been the ancestor of the drier, more powdery wheat flour we use today.
Okay. Just pronunciation. The ancestor.
The ancestor.
Yeah. Like your grandparents or your ancestors. Okay. But of course they're using it for wheat. Okay. They even use the first. All right. All right. Now, if I'm making notes, what am I going to write down here? Nora, what would you write if you're making notes?
The process of consuming.
You're going to write all that?
No, I write number 1.
You're right. Number 1. Okay. What is the keyword here? It might help you in the writing. When you do the reading, they give you 3 minutes before you hear the lecture. It may actually help to pick out some keywords to listen for.
The reading will still be there when I'm writing?
Yep.
This basic?
Yeah, what happens is you have this reading, and then you see this silly picture here, and you listen to the lecture. But all you're doing is looking at the picture. Then it goes back to the reading. Okay? And you can write. The only reason that they let you read first is actually so you can do predictive listening. You can actually listen for keywords so you can understand how the lecturer is either agreeing or disagreeing with the key points. So what might you listen for? I would actually write this down. I would actually take this time to write down a keyword from here. Were I taking the test? Michael, you have any ideas?
Sorry, I should read the paragraph. I didn't listen.
Okay. I would choose, okay, Nora, first of all, I'm probably going to be looking for nouns or verbs. Most likely verbs, actually. I would choose the word grinding. I may actually write down the word grinding so I can listen for it. Okay.
Just one word I write.
That's all I would write because I'm going to be listening. I can't listen for 7 or 8 words or a whole sentence. I'm only going to listen for one keyword to see if the professor in the lecture talks about grinding. All right.
Okay.
From there was a short step to the next breakthrough, baking the simplest bread, which requires no technology but fire. Loaves of wheat paste, when baked into bread, could be stored for long periods, certainly longer than raw seeds. This kept the food value of wheat available for an extended period after it had been harvested. What is he talking
Baking.
about? Baking? Yeah, baking or baking bread. You know, all right. So maybe
Yeah.
2 words. They kind of go together. Co-location, baking bread. Okay. All right. Finally, ancient people found that if this paste was allowed to sit in the open, yeast spores from the air settled on it and began fermenting the wheat. This natural process of fermentation caused bubbles to form in the wheat paste, suggesting that it would be lighter in texture and even easier to eat when baked. Nora, Michael, what's your keyword here, do you think, to listen for in the lecture? Ideas?
Baking.
I don't even see the word baking here in this last paragraph.
Maybe open.
What?
Open. Sit in the open.
Oh, oven?
No.
Well, okay.
The
Fermenting.
third sentence.
I'm picking fermenting because I have 2. First of all, here's another clue. I've got 2 forms of the I have a noun form and a verb form. That's a pretty good clue that this is probably going to be a word used by the lecturer, which will directly relate to the reading. Okay? All right. So, maybe on my piece of paper, all I've written down is 1, grind, 2, bake bread, 3, ferment. That's it. That's all I've written down. Now I'm going to listen to the lecture, and I'm going to hear what he has to say about grinding, fermenting, or baking and fermenting. And that's it. And obviously, I'm going to make notes when I do that. Okay. Any last questions, Nora? Or
No, thank you.
any last questions? Okay. Tomorrow I'm going to look at task 2, and I'm going to go through the template much quicker so we can actually do a reading and listen and talk about how to respond. So maybe we can practice taking notes tomorrow if you should join me. Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.